Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide and to the second take of actually recording all of this, because once I've finished recording all of the face videos for the portion of this video, I've only then noticed that I failed to turn on my microphone. So yay, take two. I love when that happens. Sarcasm. All right, so what are we doing in this video? Well, we got three Remarkables here. We got Remarkable 1, we got Remarkable 2, and we got Remarkable Paper Pro. Remarkable 1 came out in 2017 and is using their own take on the Carta display at that time. And it was made as, I think it was called Canvas Display. And in this case, it's Generation 1. So Remarkable 1, 2017, Canvas Display Gen 1. Then we got Remarkable 2, a trusty companion of many users, that came out in 2020. And this one, again, is using a Canvas display, but this time Generation 2. And finally, we got the Remarkable Paper Pro that came out last year, so 2024. And it is using the Gallery 3, heavily modified by Remarkable, into what they are calling Canvas Color Display. All right, so what the hell? Why are you just talking about displays here? Well, because that's what the video is all about. With the ongoing testing and rolling out of the Display Analysis Framework, or the DAF methodology, that I'm developing and now finalizing. Actually, I've been developing it for well over 6 months. What is that? Well, that is my attempt at creating a testing methodology of test suites to measure and test the quality and performance of e-paper displays in these e-paper tablets, in order to give us as a community quantifiable results and points of comparison between all of these devices, because quite honestly, it's a jungle out there and we don't have a language nor matrices to compare all of the different complex aspects of e-paper displays on e-paper tablets. So that's what the DAF methodology is. It's not fully finalized, so it's not final release here, but this is all currently still in the process of final validation, testing, you know, how it survives impact with the enemy, what are the edge cases, what do edge cases expose, what are the weaknesses, and all that kind of stuff. And it's already working because, for example, Tab Ultra C Pro and Remarkable 2 exposed some of the edge cases that I was now addressing and figuring out how to fix. So it's basically final stuff, but final tuning and making sure that the DAF methodology, once it's truly final, and I deem it as final, is a robust testing suite that can bring information, perspective, and joy and happiness and wellness to everyone. All right, so what's the point of today's video? Well, the point of today's video is something that I was interested in for a very long time, and that is between Remarkable 1, 2, and Paper Pro, or basically all of the Remarkable products that they've released, which one has the best display quality and performance? If you do like the work that I'm doing, the display analysis framework, this type of insight that this work actually gives you as a user, and you would like to support this endeavor and my deep guide in general, because I'm doing all of this on my own, so any kind of support is really welcome. Liking and subscribing is the best way to start that support. You can also consider to use super thanks as messages directly here in YouTube, or you can directly go to mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find really high quality products for these e-paper tablets that can improve your organizing and meeting needs and general notebook productivity stuff. And best of all, not only do you end up with a high quality product, but you also are directly supporting independence of my deep guide and development endeavors, such as the ones that are going into developing and finalizing the DAF methodology. And a device comparison tool that's going to also come out on the mydeepguide.com website once this whole thing is finalized. All right, and now let's see which one will prevail. Make a mental note. What do you think, how each one is going to perform? And then it's going to be interesting how that mental note compares with the final result. All right, so let's start with the readability category. And first we're checking out Remarkable 1. And we can see that in standard font type, 100% blackness, readability across all font sizes is quite good. And as we start stepping down the darkness of the font, it remains pretty much all legible and readable. Remarkable One handles thin fonts at 100% blackness really well and maintains nice clarity, no kind of degradation or losing blackness of the pixels or anything like that, something that we've consistently seen on some of the book's devices. And when we step down the brightness on the thin font, it actually just keeps on looking really good. Moving on to the thick font, and the readability remains really good still here, and we have very clear differentiation between the problematic ones, E and O. On a thick font, you might actually get a lot of bleed. That's why I'm testing out the thick font here. And again, on some of the book's devices, we've noticed that bleed actually kind of come through, especially on Kaleido-powered devices, but that's certainly not the case here. And it remains legible and readable with the thick font at 50% blackness. Remarkable 2 is similar to Remarkable 1, and I think that the performance seems to be on par. We will see what the final results are, but initially this looks fairly similar and very readable and legible across the font sizes and font color. Checking out the thin fonts, and here, while it's still legible and readable, it is noticeably worse quality than what we actually saw on the Remarkable One. And here we start to actually see that fading out and popping of occasional black pixels, but losing the black pixels cohesion at the thin fonts, something that Remarkable One actually had, but we see Remarkable 2 now going a little bit worse and looking a bit more like the book's tablets. And this is far more obvious with the thin fonts at the 50% blackness, where at the smallest size, 6 points, it actually becomes illegible. Thick fonts are nicely rendered and nice clarity here, although we are losing a little bit of sharpness here, but legibility of E and O remains really clear, so that's a good case there, and it remains legible and readable when we step down to 50% blackness as well. Now it's time for the Remarkable Paper Pro and the Gallery 3, or the color canvas display that they are using. And we can immediately see that while the readability and legibility is there, as soon as you are starting to go to really smaller details here, like the 6-point font, it's starting to lose cohesion and uniformity of shapes. Ooh. And as we are lowering down the intensity or the blackness of the fonts, it's now starting to become even more difficult to read. And when we're like at the 6-point size here with 50% blackness, while it is legible, I mean, we can recognize the letters clearly here, this is looking fairly kind of grainy and granular. And I think that this test is exposing something interesting, to me at least. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that maybe Remarkable developers are actually doing transparency to create a grayscale by just, you see this? Some of the cells are completely gone and some, yeah, this is not equal transparency and equal moving of all of the black particles up and down. This is basically selectively moving some of the particles within the font or within the pixel down and leaving some of the pixels up. I did not expect that. Huh, interesting. And that way they basically are faking grayscale. Huh. Okay, cool. So how is that gonna fare on the thin font? Because that technique and doing thin fonts and yeah, with the 50%, let's see how that works. So at 100%, yeah, it's readable and legible, but at 6-point size, it's barely legible now. And when we go down to, yeah, thin fonts at 50%, now even at 10 point, we are losing legibility severely, and it becomes really, really bad performance here. And finally, the thick fonts, they are rendered nicely and they remain okay, although the clarity and the differentiation between the E and O, you can actually see that bleed through starting to happen here. And while it is legible and you can differentiate between these two, and definitely you can differentiate between M and N, it is not as good as what we've seen on both Remarkable 1 and Remarkable 2. And when we go with the thick fonts down to 50%, that fully exposes the cheat that is being used on the Remarkable Paper Pro. And effectively that cheat, I mean, it just ruins the legibility here. And again, I'm getting an edge case scenario, a really weird edge case scenario, because in reality, yeah, that score is fake positive and way too high for what we can actually see here. But for now, I mean, yeah, you can recognize, you can guess the letters, but I'm not 100% satisfied with those results. But still, yeah, it's very, very interesting. I did not expect to see that the transparency is handled that way for, yeah, on the Remarkable Paper Pro. So how do final readability results look like for Remarkable 1 as blue, Remarkable 2 as orange, and Remarkable Paper Pro as red? And basically, yeah, in standard, they were all fairly similar scoring. But when we get to thin, we get to see, yeah, a sharp drop off. And yeah, as we've clearly seen, Remarkable 1 was the strongest performer objectively with the thin fonts and had the best readability there. And here, yeah, that was that fake positive. That's that fake positive just kind of, yeah, giving a push to Remarkable Paper Pro. But when we go to the final score, even that fake positive in the thick fonts was not enough to actually kind of save it. And it is dead last between these two, with Remarkable 1 being the best at readability between these three Remarkable products. Moving on to contrast and uniformity testing, testing the whiteness of the whites, blackness of the blacks, contrast, and the uniformity of the image, meaning noisiness. We can see that the display portion of the visual consistency is good, so we don't have any more kind of radical graininess happening between excellent, average, and poor lighting conditions. And the display portion of the test is with the shutter speed adjusted to be equalized. An observable variability score is here again with excellent, average, and poor lighting conditions. Here the shutter speed was adjusted to mimic what the human eye can see under these lighting conditions. And we can clearly see that there's graininess issues and, yeah, rendering of blackness issues, and we can clearly see the underlying structure of the canvas display there. Stepping up to Remarkable 2 with their canvas display generation 2, and we can still see graininess here, but obviously notable improvements in both the uniformity of whiteness and blackness rendering between canvas display generation 1 and 2. So this is the display test, and in the observable, yep, it maintains good uniformity or better uniformity than Remarkable 1. Although under the excellent lighting conditions, the rendering of the black is still not really as good as we've seen it on Books devices, for example, but it is definitely better than what we've had on Remarkable 1. Moving on to Remarkable Paper Pro, and one mention here, because these are grayscale images to equalize everything across the board, but Remarkable Paper Pro has a distinct indigo tint to the blackness. You won't be able to see the blackness like this on the Remarkable Paper Pro, and we can see clear increase and worsening of the uniformity. So this is the display variation, these are the observable images, and we can see that in excellent lighting conditions we maintain that granularity and noisiness and poor black rendering. In average lighting conditions, this is without the front light, it's a little bit better, but the whites are becoming a lot darker. And in poor lighting conditions, yeah, we no longer see the granularity, it's there, we see it a little bit less, but the whites are becoming way, way too dark. Moving on to the front light at 50% set, and this is the high intensity front light setting on the Remarkable Paper Pro. And these are the display results, and when we go down to observable results, it's still not enough. So the excellent remains pretty much unchanged, but between the average and the poor lighting conditions, we can see that the 50% of the front light is not enough actually to compensate the poor lighting conditions here, and there's a clear difference between the two. And when we go with the front light at 100% high intensity, these are the display results. We can see washing out of the blacks and brightening of the white. And only now do we begin to see in observable results, again, excellent remains like it is, but now we finally start to have equalization between the whites and the black rendering in average and poor lighting conditions. So let's check out the final results here. So the display and observable variability scores are here, and we can see that Remarkable 1 and 2 are very, very close. But as we've already seen in the images, Remarkable 2 does edge out, and it does have slight advantage over the older panel on the Remarkable 1, with the Remarkable Paper Pro trailing back very, very considerably, especially under observable results here. Really, really big differentiation between these two devices. When we get to the consistency score, well, none of these devices are performing actually well. They are all very, very noisy. Next category is color accuracy, and considering that we only have Remarkable Paper Pro as a color device, that's the only one that we can actually check out here, and this is without the front light turned on. And we can see that while yes, the saturation is good and probably better than some of the Kaleido screens, the actual color accuracy is way off. Blue is the best one here, and it scores really, really nicely at 0.589 out of 1. So this is a pretty high score for an e-paper display. The red, as we can see here, it's not really red, it's far more kind of pinkish, pale red, and we can see that in score. But the most alarming one here is actually the calibration of the green color, and this is really, really far off. Let's see if it changes with the front light turned on. At 50%, yeah, it definitely helps the situation, especially with the green. I mean, you can see how it just kind of makes it a bit more green, and it helps all of the colors actually a little bit. And then when we get to the front light at 100%, it just kind of helps out the whole overall situation. So it's interesting to see that the use of the front light on the canvas color display that they're using on the Remarkable Paper Pro is actually helped by the front light intensity and the front light, not hindered. And the final results definitely very, very graphically kind of demonstrate just how unequal and unbalanced the color accuracy rendering on the Remarkable Paper Pro is, because these should be all within the same kind of range here with some mild variations up and down. But we have like, yeah, blue, excellent, red, meh, and green, really, really bad. So yeah, the color uniformity rendering and the color accuracy is not really that good on the Remarkable Paper Pro. Next we get to the reflectivity category and Remarkable 1, and some of you who have watched my previous videos are probably noticing that there's a change here in how sharpness is actually rendered here, and that is my quest of handling edge cases and improving the DAF methodology here. And this is one of the improvements that I am testing out here with some nice fancy filtering going on to filter out the noise that can actually sometimes happen and manifest as Moir artifacts, which would throw off the calculations. And this is a new attempt that is yielding really, really good and consistent results. So we can see that on Remarkable 1, we have fairly low intensity of reflections, and the sharpness is really, really good. There's no clear edge at all in the reflections here, and it just diffuses really, really nicely. Hopping on over to Remarkable 2, and we can see fairly similar type of intensity and similar type of diffusion, but definitely definitely getting more sharper, and we can actually start to see the forming of that ring here a little bit more than what we've seen on Remarkable One. Let's see them side by side. Yeah, the difference is subtle, but it is absolutely there. You can clearly see that, yeah, the sharpness is starting to get formed a little bit more on the Remarkable 2, and I think that this is far more obvious on the, yeah, on the actual image that is here, not the one that's actually calculating this, but you can definitely see the, yeah, the difference between Remarkable 1 and Remarkable 2 reflectivity. And the Remarkable Paper Pro actually demonstrates excellent reflectivity here. I mean, as far as diffusing the reflections, I think that this is behaving the best out of all of the three devices here. The intensity is still there. There's very, very small variability from what I've seen. We'll see in the final scores. But the diffusion is really, really impressive here. And what's doubly impressive with the Remarkable Paper Pro's reflectivity performance is that this is actual glass that has that kind of surface and pattern. So it's very, very interesting to see this. And let's see the final results. Well, they're very, very close, but Remarkable One actually edges out in the final one just a little bit. And let's see, how did it manage to do that? Although they're super close. I mean, Remarkable Paper Pro and Remarkable One are, yeah, uber close, like a photo finish here. So we can see that the intensity is all within, yeah, 1 point of a difference here. So all three are at 69, and then we have 0.19 worst performer of the Remarkable Paper Pro, then it's 0.64 and 0.96. So Remarkable 2 has the best reflectivity intensity, and as far as sharpness goes, well, that's where Remarkable Paper Pro actually is the best performer. Again, Remarkable 1 and Paper Pro remarkably close, but Remarkable 2 is kind of noticeably lagging behind, offering sharper reflections. Still scoring really, really good. It's just that these two are exceptionally good. Okay, time to check out the ghosting performance on Remarkable 1. And all three Remarkables, they only have one refresh mode, so there's no other modes to check out. The way this test is performed is I start with a blank page, go through 10 iterations of pages of text, graphics, or combined content, and then end up on another blank page, and then take a photo of the ghosting remnants and then compare the two. So we can clearly see that the older, much older, from 2017 canvas display on Remarkable One is kind of struggling with the ghosting performances here on all three examples. Moving on to Remarkable 2, and it's actually surprising to me to see that it has as much ghosting remnants as it does. Not so much on the images, although on the graphics, although it does have quite a bit, but text is very, very unclean and ghosty, and the combined one, which is the difficult one, that's why I'm using it. This is the real kind of test. It's really, really messy. It seems that it might be even messier than a Remarkable One, but we'll see with the final scores. And now we move on to Remarkable Paper Pro, which has its advanced deghosting, selective deghosting, and intelligent deghosting kind of a thing happening. All of the tests on Remarkable Paper Pro are done without the adaptive contrast turned on at all, so it's set to off. And we can see that in text type of content, it's, yeah, definitely having ghosting issues. But as soon as we move to the graphics type of content and combined here, then that intelligent deghosting approach is kicking in, and it's cleaning out the image very, very nicely, both in graphics and in combined modes. And let's check out the final results. Well, yeah, definitely. Remarkable 1 is slightly cleaner than Remarkable 2. So Remarkable 2 is actually performing the worst as far as the ghosting goes out of these three, but as expected, because of that adaptive deghosting technology that Remarkable Paper Pro is employing, it far outscores both Remarkable 1 and Remarkable 2, and generally scores really, really high. Front light is only present on the Remarkable Paper Pro, and it is super anemic, and as we can see, it's maximum at 38 lux, while we see like 140, 150 as the maximum for different Kaleido 3 devices, for example. So really, really low front light, and this is the high intensity mode after the update 319, was it, or 318? However, what's actually quite impressive is the color consistency that it maintains across different levels of intensity. And Remarkable Paper Pro does not have color control of the front light, so all of these three are the same type of readings. They're simply necessary for the system to actually work. Now we get to the category that I'm really interested in, because I always felt that the writing and the surface on the Remarkable One was a lot more pleasant and better feeling, more authentic feeling, like a paper than on a Remarkable 2. And it's really interesting to see the results here. I haven't had a chance to compare them yet. I just transferred them. So let's see. This is Remarkable 1. And it's, yeah, surface roughness at 1.129. Just for reference sake, I mean, the Tab Ultra C Pro is 0.2, and a real piece of paper is around 2.2, I think. Far more importantly for me, for the Remarkable One, this is why it felt so good. It's not just about roughness, it's that profile curve. So first of all, it's not super jagged and super dense. It has irregular spacing between the peaks and valleys, and it's not super uniform. It has this kind of waviness, as you can see on top. This is something that the paper actually also has, and that the modern devices don't really have. And most importantly, and most telling of all, are these really dull peaks and valleys. This is something that I've seen in the profile curve of a paper, or actual paper, and it looks really similar to the real paper. Let me pull up the paper one and just compare. All right, so here is the profile curve of paper, and it's actually 2.3 surface roughness, but you can see that it has this kind of waviness going all about there, up and down, and rounded peaks and rounded valleys with a lot of spacing here. And when we switch over to Remarkable One, it is fairly similar. It has the same character. Of course, there's differences, but it does have a similar character. So that's pretty cool. All right, so now for the big one. Is Remarkable 2 going to be smoother and has a different character or not? My feeling is that it's smoother than Remarkable 1. Let's see. Oh yeah, and it's a lot smoother at 0.835. Still quite good compared to other devices, but fairly smooth. What's really interesting, again, to see here, see, we've lost that waviness, that overall waviness. This is far more uniform and kind of in line. And yeah, this time it's using a glass panel. And we see a little bit sharper peaks, but still maintaining really dull valleys. Very nice dull peaks here as well. So nice irregularity here and a nice profile curve, which I think amounts to the good writing feel that Remarkable 2 does have. But yeah, now the profile curve and the numbers confirm what I felt for years, that Remarkable 1 actually feels a little bit better, and it is better for writing. And now moving on to Remarkable Paper Pro, and it is really impressive that they have achieved 1.29 surface roughness, but most importantly this curve. You see, they have this kind of irregularity coming back, the waviness of the valleys and the peaks. It's not really on a straight line. You can't really pull a straight line through all of this. It's doing this type of wavy thing, which is really interesting. And we have dull valleys, which is good, but we do have very sharp peaks here, unlike what we've seen on the Remarkable One. So all three devices, definitely excellent writing surfaces here, but it seems like that just for the writing surface on its own, that the best one is Remarkable Paper Pro, and that's also something that I maintained. If you exclude that initial tappiness and hardness of the initial contact with the pen on the surface of the screen, once you actually just start drawing lines and writing on it, it just feels absolutely awesome. And again, the data here confirms that. So let's see, how do they kind of stack up together. And yeah, we definitely have a big difference between all three devices, and Remarkable 1 definitely is outperforming Remarkable 2 as far as surface roughness authenticity goes, with Remarkable Paper Pro actually leading the way here. Checking out refresh time now on Remarkable 1, and the way that I measure it is 480 frames per second footage is captured, inverted, contrast adjusted, and I flip a page from a content to a blank one and measure out how long it takes for the screen to settle down completely. And on Remarkable 1, it looks like this. And it takes a long time. Well, 2017 was a long time ago. And then pop, 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 and a final pop. There we go. And then it settles down at 775 milliseconds. Good Lord. Moving on to Remarkable 2, and refresh looks much more modern and complete, way less blinkiness, and just clears it out in about 431.68 milliseconds. We did have some blinkiness going on in the end, but there was no additional deghosting or changes that I would classify that count, while on Remarkable 1 we definitely did still have changes going on all the way there. And now on Remarkable Paper Pro, I hope you have a cup of coffee, because this is gonna take a long time. So it's gonna start clearing things out. Red, green, blue. All right, okay, oof, there goes Remarkable 2. Whoa, there goes Remarkable 1. Oh my God, and it wins! It's the slowest one of them all at 811.23 milliseconds. And the final score, well, that's a rude graph. There's no reason for Remarkable 2 to actually... I mean, I know that it won, and it's obviously scoring the best here with the overall score of 56.83, where higher is better now. So these are not milliseconds, this is actual score out of 100. And yeah, it's scoring the best and it's really dominating these two, but there's no reason for it to be rude and to create a gesture like that. Moving on to writing latency, again 480 frames per second, inverted and contrasted footage to expose how long it takes for the written line to cross the mark after the pen tip has crossed it. And I think that the results here are going to be predictable, because we know that Remarkable 1 is slowest, Remarkable 2 is faster, and Remarkable Paper Pro is fastest. But I just wanted to kind of update the results here using this improved methodology, and we got like 50.05. We'll see what it averages out, because I do 10 runs and then do an average of 10 runs to see how consistent they are. All right, so that's Remarkable 1. Remarkable 2, obviously already can be noticed that it's a lot faster, and in this run it was 27.11 milliseconds. And Remarkable Paper Pro really performing super quickly, and in this run it was at 12.51 milliseconds. You can just see the consistency of just how quick and how regular the line is trailing behind the tip of the pen. And the final results in writing latency are fairly expected. In this case, lower is better. And these are the actual values, not a score, but the actual values in milliseconds. So the average writing latency of Remarkable 1 is at 49.63 milliseconds. We have 26.28 for Remarkable 2. And impressive 14.6 milliseconds for Remarkable Paper Pro. And the last thing to look at is the surface distance. And we start again with Remarkable 1. And it's really interesting to see that it's just under 1 millimeter of surface distance at 0.95 millimeters. And at first I was kind of doubting that, because my impression was that it's far closer to the surface, but it actually isn't. I measured and remeasured and different types of observations, and it just is absolutely there. Remarkable 2 is at 0.9 millimeters, so just a smidge lower than Remarkable 1. And Remarkable Paper Pro is a little bit more than the other ones. It's just under 1 millimeter. There's a faint shadow down there. When I zoom in and kind of check it out, I think it's lost in these details, but when I was doing detailed measurements, I saw it there. And this is interesting to see that, yeah, they maintained very, very close type of results. As we can see here, 0.95, 0.9, and 0.98, with an asterisk that at 0.98, Remarkable Paper Pro does have a front light, albeit, you know, most of the books devices and other devices are at 1 millimeter with the front light, so yeah. All right, so I'm really interested to see what the final DAF results look like, because these devices are all over the place and it's like fighting around. So apparently Remarkable 1 scores lowest overall, so in all of the categories, at 47.59, while Remarkable 2 and Paper Pro are close, with Remarkable Paper Pro edging ahead of Remarkable 2. And I would venture a guess that that's largely due to that writing latency, because that is an important factor overall. And that's true to a degree, because when I go to the e-reader category, where the writing latency is not really important or calculated at all, we see that Remarkable 1 and 2 are performing remarkably close to each other, with Paper Pro edging ahead because it does also have a color and a front light. So those two bonuses are helping it eke out the image quality deficiencies and readability deficiencies that it objectively has as an e-reader. But yeah, the presence of the color and the front light are important aspects for an e-reader. We go to an e-notebook, and again, Remarkable Paper Pro edges ahead, mainly because of that writing latency that is very, very impressive, and a really, really good writing surface and an excellent reflectivity as well. So for writing, apart from that tapping, which is a problem definitely, but overall it just edges ahead Remarkable 2 and Remarkable 1. For me, it's surprising to see Remarkable 1 scoring lower than 2. Well, actually no, that's the latency. Yeah, the latency is pulling it down. So it has all the other attributes really, really good, but that latency, yeah, it's just 8 years old. And as an e-tablet, what do we have here? Well, we have predictably Remarkable 1 lowest, and surprisingly Remarkable 2 edging over Remarkable Paper Pro, despite Paper Pro having the colors and the front light, which are a major factor in calculating the e-tablet scores. But I think that that refresh time is simply, yeah, ruining the performance overall and the usability of Remarkable Paper Pro as an e-tablet, and I'm pretty sure that that's where it's getting the largest penalty here and allowing Remarkable 2 to actually edge out ahead. Well, okay, I don't know about you, but I had fun and I got a lot of insights here that I was not expecting at all, and that's exactly what I was hoping that the DAF methodology would bring to the table. Stuff that we maybe feel, or you kind of notice it, but you don't know what you're noticing or what you're reacting to, etc., etc. And for me personally, there were several points that were quite interesting. The surface roughness portion of the testing explained to me finally why I reacted so positively to the writing surface of the Remarkable Paper Pro, and why Remarkable 1 remains as my favorite writing surface to write on out of these three devices. I was also really, really surprised and did not expect to see the way that Remarkable Paper Pro is handling grayscale fonts basically by cheating, which explains the lack of clarity and the fuzziness that I kind of experienced. PDFs that had thinner fonts or italics that were not fully black. Now it actually makes perfect sense. So I'm wondering if you guys also had some of those moments, something that surprised you, some moments of insight that you weren't expecting, or types of clarifications that basically solidified something that you understood or felt from before, but now you also have a deeper understanding of. I hope that you liked the video, and also leave a comment down below to let me know if this type of content is something that you enjoy or not, or what would you also like to see in the videos of this type. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!